Hello, thank you for joining us on the news. I'm Ruth Aguele. Let's start with the headlines. JAMB inaugurates 23-member committee to determine admission eligibility for 599 outstanding underage candidates. Nigeria launches 8th edition of Essential Medicines list targeting children for safer and more accessible healthcare. Plus, Russian president holds talks with U.S. envoy ahead of deadline to halt offensive on Ukraine. President Bola Tinubu has directed the expedited rollout of the Free Healthcare Access Initiative for low-income retirees under the Contributory Pension Scheme, describing it as a critical component of social protection and dignity in retirement. He also called for the prompt implementation of long overdue pension increase and a minimum pension guarantee, which would provide a safety net for the most vulnerable pensioners under the CPS. The president gave the directive after receiving a briefing from Omolola Olowarora, the Director General of the National Pension Commission. President Tinubu further mandated the PENCOM DG to urgently resolve the long-standing police pension issue, emphasizing that members of the police force who serve and protect the nation deserve to retire with dignity and peace of mind. The DG also briefed the president on ongoing efforts to ensure the value preservation of pension fund assets. President Tinubu strongly supported the reforms, affirming his administration's commitment to inclusive growth and protection for ordinary Nigerians. President Bola Tinubu congratulates Nafisa Abdullahi Aminu, Rukaya Mohammed Fema, and Hadiza Kashim Kali on emerging world champions in English language, communication skills and debate at the 2025 Teen Eagle Global Competition in London, United Kingdom. 17-year-old Nafisa was named the overall best in English language skills. 15-year-old Rukaya emerged as the overall best in debate, while Hadiza clinched the Outstanding Talent Award, a gold medal. President Tinubu commends these exceptional young Nigerians for the feat and affirms that the nation's future is much brighter, with many of its youth as repositories of excellence. President Tinubu believes that education is a critical element for national development, hence his administration's significant investment in the sector and the removal of financial barriers for indigent Nigerians seeking higher education through the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFund. In other news, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has inaugurated a 23-member committee to determine the admission eligibility of 599 outstanding underage candidates who scored 320 and above in the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination out of over 11,000 candidates in that category. JAMB's Registrar Professor Ishaq Oloyede emphasized that scoring 320 is not an automatic ticket for admission into university. He notes that each of the affected candidates must also attain at least 80% in both their school-based assessments and post-UTME examinations.
Is the minimum for a normal one, but there will be 1 in a million that we cannot allow that to just be subsumed. The panel of experts that will consider them will sit in Abuja, Lagos, and Owerri.
He therefore advised parents against cutting corners to secure admission for their underage children, warning that maturity and readiness remains key factors in tertiary education success.
The world must avoid introducing these young boys into the world of crime. bribing people, trying to influence the admission and so on. You are introducing them into the world of crime to allow these students to emerge normally, naturally. And we are assuring you that there will be fair play. Everything will be transparent.
The registrar added that only those who meet all requirements at each stage of the rigorous screening process will be recommended for admission. The final list of successful candidates is expected to be released in September. In a bold push to strengthen Nigeria's medical independence, the federal government has unveiled fresh plans to boost local vaccine and drug development with a renewed focus on tackling tropical diseases. Fatima Sanusi Karai reports that the move is part of a national strategy to reduce dependence on foreign pharmaceuticals and advance homegrown solutions.
Nigeria's drive to boost local vaccine and drug development is gradually gathering momentum as authorities are giving priority to local research to achieve the set objectives. One of the research centers being used is the Kano State Independent Research Trust Center in Kwanar Dawaki, which recently hosted the Director General of the National Biotechnology Research Development Agency, Dr. Abdullahi Mustafa, who stressed that conducting research locally will not only enhance Nigeria's self-reliance, but position the nation as a leader in homegrown innovation and healthcare solutions.
The focus of this government is to facilitate state-of-the-art research that will solve current problems in the country, and that will yield result output that can be translated to product in this country. And I see the prospect of this collaboration yielding this result.
The first layer is we make sure that we get the best brains from the surrounding universities who have very good research agenda to come and do their research here.
The center is said to have been supporting advanced studies, including the use of fingerprint patterns to detect breast cancer in women and the development of a vaccine aimed at reducing the risk of stillbirth. In Kano, Fatima Sanusi Karai, NTA News.
Still talking health issues, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention has confirmed 3 additional deaths from Lassa fever, bringing the total number of fatalities in 2025 to 155. According to the agency's latest situation report, covering week 29, July 14 to 20, 2025, a total of 822 confirmed cases have been reported so far this year, spanning 105 local government areas across 21 states. The current case fatality rate stands at 18.9%, marking a noticeable increase from the 17.1% reported during the same period in 2024. The NCDC highlights that 89% of all confirmed cases originated from just 5 states: Ondo, Bauchi, Edo, Taraba, and Ebonyi, underscoring the persistent regional concentration of the disease. The number of newly confirmed cases remains unchanged from the previous week, with all new infections recorded in Ondo and Edo states. No new cases were reported among healthcare workers during the period under review. In response to the outbreak, the NCDC reassures the public that the National Lassa Fever Technical Working Group, a multi-sectoral response team, continues to lead nationwide containment efforts. The agency urges Nigerians to maintain proper hygiene, avoid contact with rodents, and seek prompt medical attention if symptoms occur. Deficit in drafting expertise has in many instances led to vague, inconsistent and legally defective regulations that needs urgent action to avoid litigations and administrative bottlenecks in governance. Well, this was a thrust of a 3-day capacity building workshop on drafting subsidiary legislation for legal officers of the armed forces and other law enforcement agencies in the country, organized by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. Mohammed Rabiu Ali reports.
In any constitutional democracy, the rule of law is the bedrock of governance, security, and social order, while legislation outlines far-reaching policy framework and legal mandates. This training for legal officers of the armed forces seeks to provide a technical know-how on subsidiary legislation that will assist in shaping the policies of governance, providing the clarity and mechanisms required for practical enforcement and operational efficiency.
For any legal officer within the armed forces and other law enforcement bodies, mastery in the drafting of subsidiary legislation is indispensable. It is essential not only for ensuring compliance with constitutional and statutory provision, but also for safeguarding institutional integrity, enhancing operational coherence, and avoiding legal ambiguities that could compromise justice or public confidence.
In the recent passing of the Nigerian Customs Service Act, we are in the process of drafting subsidiary legislations, and this training, I believe, is very important because we are among the people that will be drafting the legislation and regulation notices and other things, so definitely this training came at the right time.
Attending this will also add to my skills of what I've already learned before.
Participants are expected at the end of the training to go back stronger as legal drafters, enhance capacity to translate policy into action. Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
ECOWAS is fine-tuning the police component of its regional standby force in preparation for deployment. To this end, a meeting of regional police representatives and training centers is held in Abuja to validate its operational framework. Kelvin Ehonwahe reports.
The ECOWAS standby force to combat terrorism, insurgency, and foster political stability in member states has a police component. It is essentially to promote the rule of law and maintain peace when deployed. But the framework for training and operation is what this meeting of experts from across the sub-region is fine-tuning to ensure compliance with the rules of engagement.
The ECOWAS standby force, as you are aware, stands as a vital mechanism for our regional peace and security architecture. As a multidimensional force, it is designed to respond swiftly and effectively to conflicts across the region.
The outcome of this important workshop must be more than a document. It should be a living tool capable of enhancing our collective ability to respond to crises, restore order, and uphold the dignity of our people.
This meeting, not just for the purpose of discussing its agenda, but to also establish contact with old and perhaps new members of the Focal Point family as we collectively continue to chart the course for better security integration and stability across our various countries, with special attention this time on the need to strengthen capacities of formed police units and individual police officers for peace support operations.
This meeting is coming just after that of the military component last month, an indication that the ECOWAS Commission is prepared to activate the regional standby force in its kinetic form soon. In Abuja, Kelvin Ehonwahe, NTA News.
Nigeria has launched the 8th edition of its essential medicines list, alongside the 2nd edition tailored specifically at children, as part of efforts to make healthcare safer, smarter, and more accessible. Uche Ogochukwu reports that beyond the pages of the policy lies a life-saving instrument that guides what medicines are available in local pharmacies, health hospital wards, and even children's bedside.
Health stakeholders and development partners gathered to unveil what experts called a critical update to Nigeria's pharmaceutical framework, one that directly shapes what drugs are available and prioritized across health facilities. They said it's not just a list, but a life-saving lifeline.
So for this edition, I want to assure you that the NHI will take a look at it and wholeheartedly adopt it.
The latest edition includes the aware classification of antibiotics to groups of access, wash, and reserves to emphasize the importance of their optimal use and potential for antimicrobial resistance.
By integrating aware categorization into the essential medicine list, Nigeria is taking a decisive step towards preserving the effectiveness of life-saving antibiotics, safeguarding public health, and strengthening our response to infectious diseases.
The revised list, meticulously curated by a team of expert clinicians and reviewed by the Nigeria Drug Formulary and Essential Medicines List Committee, are not just about medicine availability, but also about affordability, safety, and evidence-based use.
The publication of the second edition of the Children's List marks a bold affirmation that our youngest citizens deserve targeted, high-quality, and age-appropriate care.
And with the children's edition now more robust, pediatric care is getting the attention it long deserved. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
Thank you for staying tuned. Cameroon's Constitutional Court has rejected the candidacy of President Paul Biya's strongest opponent in October's presidential election. Hippolyte Meli Tiakwang told reporters after the hearing that the Constitutional Council ruled that the candidacy of Maurice Kamto, a critic of the longtime president, cannot be valid, and the immediate consequence is that he will not participate in the presidential race. Biya, 92, has been in power since 1982 and is seeking an 8th term in office in the October 12 contest. Kamto, 71, who resigned from the Cameroon Renaissance movement at the end of June, came second to Biya in the 2018 presidential election. He sought to run as the candidate for the African Movement for New Independence and Democracy. Constitutional Council President Clement Atangana ruled Kamto's appeals were admissible for the court to hear, but then judged them unfounded. So far, Cameroon's Election Commission has approved 13 out of 83 prospective candidates, including Biya and former government spokesman Issa Bakari. Russian President Vladimir Putin held constructive talks with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff in Moscow this Wednesday. The Kremlin said just 2 days ahead of U.S. deadline for Russia to halt its Ukraine offensive for face fresh sanctions. Framapai reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump, who had boasted he could end the conflict within 24 hours of taking office, has given Russia until Friday to make progress towards peace or face new penalties. However, 3 rounds of Russia-Ukraine talks in Istanbul have failed to make headway on a ceasefire, with the two sides far apart in their demands. A quite useful and constructive conversation took place, Putin's aide Yuri Ushakov told journalists after the 3-hour meeting. President Putin and Witkoff exchanged signals on their positions, Ushakov said without elaborating. The Kremlin released video of Putin shaking hands with Witkoff at the start of the meeting. Ahead of talks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged Washington to increase its pressure on Moscow to agree to a ceasefire. The White House has not outlined what action it will take against Russia, but Trump has previously threatened to impose secondary tariffs targeting Russia's key trade partners such as China and India. The move would aim to stifle Russian exports, but would risk significant international disruption. President Trump said on Tuesday that he will await the outcome of the Moscow talks before ordering an economic sanction. Kyiv is calling for an immediate ceasefire, and Zelensky last week urged his allies to push for regime change in Moscow. The visit comes with Moscow-Washington tensions running high. Moscow then said it was ending a self-imposed moratorium on nuclear-capable intermediate-range missiles, suggesting that it could deploy such weapons in response to what it alleged were similar U.S. deployments within striking distance of Russia. Frama Pani, NTA News.
And on the flip side, back home, the House of Representatives has asked the Federal Character Commission to lead by example in enforcing constitutional provisions requiring equitable distribution of all cadre of posts in the public service of the Federation. Chairman, House Committee on Federal Character, Idris Wasi, stated this while frowning at perceived disparity in the distribution of directors of the Commission at its headquarters and across 6 geopolitical zones. The House Committee invited the management of the Commission for an interactive session to clear the air over observed contravention of federal character principles in some agencies of government.
Obeying federal character. So some have retired. No, it's not about some. Are you obeying federal character?
I'm aware that just a couple of months ago, few retired, and I'm also aware that next month, which is month of September, by the middle of September, 1 or 2 will retire. So, yes, we know we have to do this equitable distribution. Equitable distribution is also different from equal distribution, because we have to make that clear also. It doesn't mean that...
Chairman, I disagree with you. Northwest had what number? Directors. Northwest, he told me 4. No Central, no, more than 4. Thank you. No Central, 1. Southwest 0. Why should it be so? Why should it be so? Whether in their promotion or whatever, the Constitution is very, very clear as to what they are supposed to do. And so you are the first line as far as I'm concerned.
It is said that a happy workforce guarantees productivity. This is the message of the chairman, Radio, Television, Theatre and Arts Workers Union of Nigeria, Ratawo, Prince Emeka Kali, to some media establishments in the Federal Capital Territory on a familiarization visit. Deborah Balagbobo reports that the visit was to create a close working synergy between members and organizations.
The journey to the 3 media outfits, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Voice of Nigeria, and DAR Communications, were that of building a responsible and constructive engagement that protects workers' rights. Heads of organization congratulated Ratao's new leadership with an assurance to them to strengthen ties with the union to achieve operational excellence.
A strong and virile Ratao is very good for this industry. So we will do everything possible within our means and our capacity for Ratao to thrive.
As a leader of this union, within the broadcast and allied media sector, your mandate is not just merely to agitate, but to elevate. To elevate the quality of staff engagement, which you are doing now, which you have amplified, professional standard, and ultimately the institution that serve the public good.
These objectives is critical and fundamental, but if there's anyone who has the capacity to lead in this time, we have full and utmost confidence in your capacity to lead by example and to really take the charge forward.
We are trying to bring back the Ratau of our dream, the Ratau that we used to have where everybody come together as one. We've been happy people, and together, when we come together as an unbreakable bunch of broom, as an indivisible entity, the union that makes us strong will achieve great feats and height.
National President Ratao Prince Emeka Kalu, widely known as Magic Fingers, secured a landslide victory over 3 contenders from Rivers, Ekiti, and Ogun states. He views his victory as a boost for professionalism, youth representation, and progressive leadership within the union. In Abuja, Deborah Balagubo, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu says he received with deep sadness the news of the passing of Dr. Doyinsola Hamidat Abiola, a trailblazing journalist editor and former managing director of the defunct Concord Group of newspapers and wife of the late MKO Abiola. He described Doyin Abiola, who died at 82, as an Amazon and an icon in Nigerian journalism. President Tinubu said her immense contributions to journalism and gender equity laid a foundation for generations of women. He notes that she embodied integrity, tenacity, hard work, commitment to excellence, and dedication to public good and democratic good governance. They say there is reward for hard work and dedication to duty. Well, this played out when staffers of NTA International celebrated their immediate past head of news, Kemi Fakeye, who is now the general manager, NTA Channel 5, Abuja. Let's hear from Comfort Fashion.
This was the ovation that ushered the celebrant, Kemi Fakeye, into the hall where the management of NTA International, the Executive Director News, Ayo Adeoye, and the Director News, Halima Musa, paid glowing tribute to a woman who held sway as the head of News, NTA International, for close to a decade, and Nancy Godi Anuniho, Manager News, presenter of Diplomatic Ties, who is retiring from the services of NTA.
Leadership is not the job for a weakling. Leadership is about taking decisions. Leadership is about taking responsibility.
You don't hear Kemi. You see her works.
I want to thank you because you were selfless in service, relentless.
It's very hardworking, up and doing that.
A staff of NTA International who pour out their feelings as Kemi Fakeye proceeds to another station to take on a higher responsibility, describes her as a mentor, a teacher, and kind-hearted personality. On the part of the celebrants, all she did was to raise the standard of the station and called on members of staff of the news department to commit themselves to duty.
I want to appeal to all of us. Please cooperate with the person that is receiving the mantle at this time. We all have our shortcomings. We all have our strengths. And we all have our weaknesses. Let us continue to build on our strengths.
Auntie Kemi, as she's fondly called, conquered the newsroom jungle of NTA International, navigated it with nothing but her wit, her charm, and an unwavering commitment to delivering the hard-hitting truth. So is Nancy Godi Anuniho, who engages all hands on desk during production. To say farewell to the duo, gifts were presented to them. Comfort, fashion, NTA News.
Moving to greater heights, I would say softly spoken, but she's always firm. Wish you the best, Auntie Kemi, in your new position. And that's the news. Thank you for your time. I'm Ruth Aguilera.